All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the most breathtaking and honestly most consequential moments in ancient literature. We're looking at a deeply pivotal scene from the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata. Just imagine a moment where profound grief, incredibly high-stakes royal politics, and literal, unexplainable divine magic all crash right into each other at the gates of a massive city. We're going to break down exactly how this moment unfolds, using the original text to guide us through a sudden succession crisis that basically sparks a legendary war. So let's step back in time and head straight to the ancient city of Hastinapura.
Now, to really grasp the gravity of this event, we have to start with the inciting incident. King Pandu, the sovereign ruler of the Kuru dynasty, has died. And he's died far, far away from his kingdom, in a remote mountain retreat, because he had actually abandoned his throne to practice severe ascetic austerities out in the wilderness. Back home, the kingdom is completely in the dark. They have absolutely no idea they've just lost their king. But even more importantly, they are totally unaware of the massive succession question that is about to, quite literally, knock on their front door. Think of it like a modern-day corporate succession crisis, but, with astronomical kingdom-shattering stakes. I mean, what actually happens when 5 heirs, born of the gods, suddenly show up at a city gate that thought its royal line was all but extinct?
Well, right after the king dies, the godlike Rishis and wise ascetics who shared the mountain with King Pandu hold a council, and they instantly recognize the massive political and moral weight of what's just happened. They state their mission clearly. King Pandu has left his wife and infant sons as a trust in their hands. So they resolve right then and there that their absolute duty is to travel back to his kingdom and place these children, the widowed queen Kunti, and the 2 dead bodies directly into the hands of the royal family's elders, specifically Bhishma and Dhritarashtra. They basically take on the ultimate high-stakes escort mission imaginable.
And let me tell you, this undertaking is massive. They start way out at the Mountain of 100 Peaks, journeying across the ancient landscape through Kuru Jangala until they finally arrive at the principal gate of Hastinapura. But the text actually gives us this beautiful, deeply human detail here. Queen Kunti has been unused to hard toil her entire life. Yet because she's traveling with her beloved children and the remains of her husband, her deep affection makes what was a really long, grueling journey feel incredibly short. It's just a powerful testament to a mother's focus right in the middle of a tragic homecoming.
Now, when they finally arrive, these ascetics don't just quietly slip in through the back. Oh no, they immediately charge the porters to inform the king. The message is carried to the royal court in a flash. But they aren't traveling alone either. Thousands of Sharnanas and Munis, these are wandering sages and celestial bards, have accompanied them. So word spreads literally like wildfire through the streets of Hastinapura. Think of it as the ancient equivalent of a breaking news alert hitting everyone's phones at once. By sunrise, the citizens are just pouring out of their homes. They're completely filled with wonder, grabbing their wives and children just to catch a glimpse of this awe-inspiring procession.
And the scale of this crowd is truly staggering. We're talking about a vast assemblage making up all levels of ancient society, from the warrior elite, the kshatriyas, arriving in thousands of chariots, all the way down to the priests, merchants, and everyday laborers. The entire social pyramid is right there. But here is the really incredible takeaway. Despite the thousands upon thousands of people flooding the area, this unimaginably massive crowd is dead silent. They are completely united in pure reverence. Every single person there is inclined to piety just being in the presence of these holy men.
Of course, it isn't just the common citizens who rush to the gates. The heavy hitters of the Kuru court make their appearance, which instantly establishes the massive political stakes of this reception. You've got the revered patriarch Bhishma, the blind royal sage Dhritarashtra standing there with his 100 sons, and all the incredibly influential queens and counselors like Vidura, Satyavati, and Gandhari. Literally, the entire ruling apparatus of the kingdom has emptied out to meet these mysterious ascetics.
So how exactly do you handle a situation like this? Well, with strict, deeply respectful ancient protocol. Before anyone asks a single question about the children or the bodies they brought, the Kauravas and the citizens lower their heads and bow. Then Bhishma steps up, stills the vast crowd, and formally worships the ascetics. He offers water to wash their feet and the customary arghya, which is an offering of water and flowers. Here's the deeper insight, though. In ancient times, when you're faced with an unprecedented political earthquake like this, you fall back on strict, unbending protocol. It visually demonstrates the absolute supremacy of spiritual authority over royal power.
And this is where the tension hits its absolute peak. In response to Bhishma, the oldest of the ascetics stands up. Just picture him for a second. Matted locks of hair on his head, his loins covered simply with animal skin, standing right in front of the glittering, wealthy royalty of Hastinapura. With the silent concurrence of all the other Rishis standing behind him, he prepares to deliver a message that will completely rewrite the kingdom's line of succession forever. You could probably hear a pin drop.
He begins by reminding everyone that King Pandu had abandoned the pleasures of the world for a life of strict celibacy in the forest. But then he drops an absolute bombshell. He says, for some inscrutable purpose the gods have in view, despite Pandu's strict vows, his royal line has been revived. The gods themselves mysteriously and miraculously intervened to ensure that the Kuru dynasty would not only survive, but would be inherited by beings of divine origin.
The ascetic then lays out this brand new royal lineage for the completely stunned crowd. He points to the eldest son, Yudhishthira, and says he was begotten by Dharma himself, the god of righteousness. He points to the next boy, Bhima, begotten by the wind god Vayu, calling him the foremost of all mighty men. Next is Dhananjaya, better known as Arjuna, begotten by Indra, whose achievements, the ascetic prophesies, will literally humble all bowmen in the world. And finally, he presents the mighty twins, begotten upon Pandu's second wife Madri by the twin Aswins, describing them as tigers among men. These aren't just boys, they are literal divine instruments of fate.
But just as the crowd is absorbing the joyous, mind-blowing revelation of these magnificent heirs, the ascetic violently shifts the tone right back to tragic reality. He reveals that King Pandu actually departed from this world 17 days ago. And worse, his second wife, Madri, witnessing him placed on the funeral pyre and about to be consumed, sacrificed her own life. She ascended that very same pyre to join her lord. So the kingdom hasn't just gained 5 princes, they've lost a king and a queen in a matter of weeks.
The ascetic immediately grounds these supernatural revelations back into harsh, earthly duty. Pointing to the remains they've carried across the country, he commands the Kuru family, accomplish now whatever rites should be performed for their benefit. He presents the unburnt portions of the bodies of Pandu and Madri. And make no mistake, he isn't asking for a favor here, he is demanding that the kingdom step up and fulfill its sacred obligation to their deceased leader and his wife.
To be highly precise, the ascetic demands the completion of the first rites, followed by the first annual shraddha, specifically a rite called the Sapindakarana. So what does this all mean? Well, in this ancient society, the shraddha isn't just a memorial service. Not at all. It's a vital, absolutely crucial cultural and spiritual ritual required to honor the dead and formally install them among the Pitras, which are the revered ancestors. By doing this, the virtuous Pandu, who always supported the dignity of the Kurus, will take his rightful, eternal place in the dynasty's history. Processing this grief correctly is paramount to the kingdom's spiritual health.
So what we're looking at is a massive dual mandate that the ascetics have just laid at the feet of the royal court. First, you must perform the solemn funeral rites for the dead, and second, as he says, let these be now received with due honors, meaning they must formally and legally embrace these young, powerful, divine heirs and their widowed mother, Kunti. Think about that for a second. The ascetics have delivered both the kingdom's greatest tragedy and its greatest hope in the exact same breath.
And having delivered their message, the bodies, and the heirs, the ascetics do something absolutely breathtaking. The text tells us that the ascetics, along with the celestial beings known as Guyakas, instantly disappear in the very sight of the people. Like vapor appearing and disappearing in the skies, these godlike Rishis and mystic Siddhas simply vanish into thin air. Poof, gone. The thousands of citizens are just left standing there at the gates, utterly filled with wonder, before slowly returning to their homes to try and process what they have just witnessed.
Which brings us to our final, provocative thought for today. The magical ascetics have vanished, leaving behind the very harsh, very grounded reality of royal politics. Dhritarashtra and his 100 sons are now staring directly at 5 god-born princes who have a direct, entirely legitimate claim to the throne. So how on earth is Hastinapura going to handle these newly revealed divine heirs? Are they going to be embraced as saviors or seen as a sudden existential threat to those currently holding power? The seeds of the greatest war in ancient history have just been planted at the city gates. The only question now is, who's going to strike first?